The Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards, every Thursday at 6:15 on Goliath Radio. Gwen Azama-Edwards, retired city clerk, former city commissioner, City of Daytona Beach. The Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards on Goliath Radio.
Don't put your phone there.
I just put it there and you said don't put it there.
No, this is the electrical stuff. We don't want anything screwing around with that.
Dan, you've been sitting much too long. Welcome to Truth, a radio program designed with you in mind, a program whose sole purpose is to empower you, our listeners, for information leads to knowledge, and knowledge is, you got it, power. And as always, I want to empower you to take control of your life, those things that impact you, your family, and your community. As always, too, I want you to go to the website at www.gwen-truth.com so you can access all of that all-powerful information. Sometimes I try to say that very romantically so that you guys will actually go there for sure. But all-powerful information. My guess is going to help me get that right, I'm sure. As has been stated, I'm Gwen Azama-Edwards, former city commissioner, retired city clerk, City of Daytona Beach, author, minister, St. John Missionary Baptist Church Incorporated, community volunteer, and a person who wants to ensure that you are as powerful as you can be. And when you got information, you've got what? Power. We're getting close to St. Patrick's Day, and I don't know, somebody was saying that this was the day, but I don't think so. But St. Patrick's Day, be sure to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and sure, in fact, be sure to celebrate every day of your life, because you know no day is guaranteed to us. So every day that you have, you should say thank you, Lord, or just say thank you. And go ahead and enjoy it. You have my permission. For those who need permission to enjoy their lives, okay? You have my permission. We have a guest tonight who's going to help us to better enjoy our lives, to better enjoy life. And how best do you do that? Through having a complete, a total self with mind, body, and soul. And this young lady is a relative of a guest. We've had a prior guest, Daisy Grimes, and her name is Noni Walker. And she is not only a motivational speaker, not only an author, not only an individual who actually coaches on wellness, but she is an individual who practices what she teaches. She does what she says. She doesn't just talk it, she also walks it. And so she's going to walk us through this training that she has written a book about in terms of wellness and being whole. So I'm going to ask her right now to kind of introduce herself while I make sure that the mic is set and that we've got our video straight on her. Noni, introduce yourself. Speak totally into the mic.
Okay, well, hello, Gwen, and hello to the Truth Radio family. I am, as she said, Noni Walker, and I'm so excited and so pleased to be here on your show this evening.
And I'm just pleased as I can be to have you. Noni actually sent me an online copy of her book, which is wonderful. Some of the things that were in there I was aware of, but you put them in such a frame, and that puts me in such a mindset that I'm better able to understand why I've been told certain things, you know, in terms of exercise, in terms of eating right, in terms of actually doing those things to take care of myself. So let's kind of walk our way through and take some others through this journey, starting with, what is it that really got you into the wellness mindset?
Well, Gwen, I have always been into mainly science. As a youngster, I was very into the high school anatomy class. That's where I first had that spark, that aha moment that, wow, this is something that I think I want to do long term. I enjoyed dissecting the animals.
The one thing I hated.
Right. Some people said it terrorized them, but for me, I really enjoyed it because it just gave me that true to life inside view of how magnificent a body is, whether it's the body of a pig or a body of a human. So pretty early on, I decided I wanted to be a medical doctor. I went to the great Bethune-Cookman, at that time college, now it's university, and the entire time had my eyes set. My goals were to become a thoracic surgeon. Well, I've gone through a different path. I found myself not quite as passionate as I thought I would be. And so after taking a short break after graduating from college, I then found my niche, which was public health. Public health broadened my view of how can we view science and how can we view math, and then put it into a much broader perspective. So instead of being very, very focused on one part of the body or in particular treatment, I really enjoyed discovering the world of public health. And so I went to graduate school, and since that time have been able to work in public health organizations, nonprofit mainly, around chronic diseases that affect the minority populations at greater rates. So dealing with diabetes, dealing with hypertension, and kidney disease. Those three in particular are three of my passion areas. And that eventually led me through the road to want to affect people on an even different level. What I found, Gwen, was we focused a lot on distributing the information. Okay, this is hypertension, this is diabetes, this is what all this means. And in traveling around the country, speaking, screening, and educating thousands of people over many, many years, I came to see, everyone is getting the information. Everyone is getting the papers, they're at the health fairs, they're getting the information, but what is that missing link? What is it that still does not seem to be able to affect behavior? When we can get the information and the knowledge, but what is it that actually affects behavior and makes change? That became an obsession. It still is. I think it's going to be a lifelong journey to study behavior and why people make certain choices and why they don't. So.
And that would be something that, man, you find the answer to that, you'll probably be rich. It's that, like that saying that they say, you know, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Right. And I wonder a lot, which is similar to what you've said, why it is that people will actually do things that they know are bad for them, they know will not help them, they know that will probably speed up their death, but they still persist in doing it. And people who even have cancer who continue to smoke, and they make the statement, well, I've got to die of something anyway. Well, why not live for something? Why not live and prolong your life and do it in such a way that that life will be a worthwhile lifestyle and living, as opposed to doing something that's going to make you really miserable and those around you miserable.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I had to go through it myself in order to understand that. Before I had my own personal experiences, I thought the same thing. Why don't people just change? If they understand the information, why don't they change? I don't get it. But I found my own self in a situation, many situations, where for me, I found myself making those harmful choices for my life under a great deal of stress. Some self-inflicted, okay, in my personal life and professional life. And before you knew it, I looked up and I was making those same choices. Choosing the Snickers bar instead of the piece of fruit, or going to get the fried chicken nuggets for lunch instead of the salad. Because I was almost blinded by the other things that were going on in my life, and I found that those deeply affected my lack of making a positive choice. So I kind of had to go through that on my own to understand, unless the choice or the behavior is linked to something that is very important to a person, then you may not see the change. And so it took for me to be at a doctor's office, and he had to look at me over the rim of his glasses and say, I'm looking here at your paperwork, and I don't know what's been going on, but you're almost at the pre-diabetic level. What immediately came to my mind was a future picture of me as a mother of 2 children having to be diabetic, having to go through these extra parts of life that could be very inconvenient, that could affect my health and vitality, that could affect the activities that I so enjoy doing with my kids. So I had that link at that time. Okay, I know that I don't want to be this certain way. That is the cause, that's what's important, and that's why I will make the change. But had I not had that link, who knows, I might be sitting here today as a diabetic, or as something else, high blood pressure, or whatever it may be. So I find that taking a more gentle approach to people, hey, I understand that you might know this, but maybe you haven't found that one thing inside of you that links it and makes it most important for you to want to change. How about we try to find that together? And that seems to have a more positive effect on helping others to make change, because I went through it myself. And here I was by day out there speaking about hypertension is this, kidney disease is this, but then going and making those bad choices on my own because of what I was going through.
See, that's what I mean by talking it but not walking it. And people actually look at you, they look at the experts, so to speak, and they think to themselves, well, why are they saying this but they're doing that? Which is, you know, that's really the not the type of person that, especially young people want realness. They want truth and all this kind of stuff. So when we try to get them to change, and then they don't see the change in us, the change that we want to see, they don't see it in us, then they don't want to then try to use us as an example of what they will become. So you talk in your book about the F words. The F words, and there are people who say, oh God, did she really? You know, the expletives. No, there are some F words that we hear all of the time. We know they're important, just like what we're talking about things that people should not do, but they continue to do them. But there are some F words that have different meanings for different people, but some things that are positive and some things that can be really negative for us.
Yes, and so the book is called The F Train to Freedom. It is so fun to say the book title and then watch someone's expression because they're trying to look and say, okay, I'm trying to respect you that you've written a book, but really, Noni? Really? Is it really about F words? Yes, it really is. Again, through my own personal experiences and then combining that with all of the professional experiences I had, in addition to the education, it became formed over a period of time. This is heavy stuff here. And what is a crafty way to put it together, grab people's attention, and then ease on into what the information actually is. So the F, and on the front of the book it does appear to be an expletive. It's because I'm starting with what I have called the dirty F words in health. Fear and fat. Those are the first two. Why are they dirty? Well, they are dirty because of the effect they have on us as it relates to our health and wellness. And especially with that second word, fat, just saying the word brings up so much emotion. It's not that I am attacking anyone who happens to be overweight. What I'm saying is, let us look at fat and fear and look at those two as concepts and be able to remove the negativity, be able to remove the taboo around it. Let's have a real discussion about these two concepts and explore how they do affect our health and our wellness. So, yeah, starting out with the dirty F words, but then I go into some other more positive, feel-good F words.
Yes. And when you think about fat, because anyone who's actually listened to people who are involved in nutrition or people who are involved in exercise and the like, they will tell you that there's, there are fancy words for it, but there's good fat and bad fat. Just like there's a good and a bad for almost anything. And you want more of the good than you want of the bad. And you want to, as someone said on one of my shows, it's important to do things in moderation. Now the ball's in your court.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's exactly right. And especially as women, we can really become almost obsessed with fat and then with weight. And as I've talked about in the book, we've got to understand what it is we're talking about.
Mhm.
So that would help to remove some of the guilt around that number associated with weight, or that number associated with what we perceive to be as our fat levels. Just because a person might weigh 140 and has a height of 5'6" or 5'7", that number might seem large to one person but not large to the other, because it all depends on really looking at more than just your weight, looking at what is your actual body fat percentage, not just how much you weigh. If I were to go stand on a standard scale right now, I'm getting a measurement of my bones, the water, my blood, everything that's in my body. It's really my total mass, but it's not the actual total body fat percentage. And so, as you said early on in the interview here, that the book is presented in such a way that it's easy to understand. I've tried my best to present that, these concepts and the education around that, in a very easy to understand manner, so that again we can just talk about it, not have it be such this taboo topic, and then we can decide how to move forward, not to want to strangle the scale every time we step on it, but okay, I know the difference between body fat percentage and weight, and now I know how to move forward in building a health plan.
Because there are people who will get on certain diets, and what that diet helps them to do is reduce the inches on their body so that they actually have more curvature, which is, you know, the guys like that. But the ladies like it too, actually. But when they see that, when they see a loss of inches, to them, that becomes even more important than the weight loss. Because if I can have, even if others may consider me as overweight, which you aren't, if you got that nice curvature, and as you were saying, if the good fat is in good proportion to the bad fat in the life, it really makes a difference. And in reading your book, when I saw you get into the fat concept, I really felt better about my weight, and I started thinking more about, okay, the water content, which, what is it, they say about 80% of your body is made up of water?
It's something like,
Yes. And so the amount that's left over in terms of the fat, in terms of the muscle that's in your bones, all of that combines together to say, you know, when you get on the scale, what it is that's involved. My mother-in-law wrote a book and it's not necessarily for Christians, but it is a book that Christians can use because it has a lot of scripture in it. But one of the things she says is, don't get on a scale for, you know, several weeks, because what you can do is, which I always do it, I always get on scale, but you end up discouraging yourself, because if you do it every day, you'll find that your weight fluctuates. It's up one day, down the other, and a lot of that has to do with fluid intake,
that's right,
or fluid retention, or some of the other things that are going on, you know, that's going on in our bodies. Now, okay, so one word then. The F word is the fat part of it. So what about this other word that can be kind of
dirty? It can be it can have a negative impact on our health and wellness. Is fear, and it's the first topic that is approached in the book, because even though there's a natural amount of fear that we are supposed to have as just beings, there should be a natural amount of fear that exists.
Which helps with survival.
Helps with survival. If we were to walk outside and a car was getting ready to hit my daughter, I should have a natural amount of fear to be able to try to stop it and do whatever I can do. But in today's society especially, we have so many other components of life that contribute to adding fear for longer periods of time. And so it's that chronic fear over a long period of time that can then affect your health in a negative manner. And so it might be fearing how your career is going, fearing how your relationship is going, having fear of coworkers, family. I mean, we can just go down the list of things that a person could fear for one day, but then if you find yourself in fear of this outcome for weeks and weeks and weeks, it begins to really damage the body and affect the choices that you need to be making to have a more positive and more healthy lifestyle. So it was really fun to write this book, because exploring these different concepts, we might have fear of failure hey, I don't want to try this because I've already tried this before and it didn't go well. I'm not going to try it again.
Mm-hmm.
But then we might have a fear of success. If I'm a person who had been 180 pounds for most of my life and I'm, a certain shorter height, that would be considered overweight. Well, if all of a sudden I look around, my family's image of me, my friends' images of me, my whole social network is built on me looking like this and being like this and all of the stories that I have attached to that, what in the world would happen if I came back 6 months later and I'm 120 pounds?
That's true.
Are they going to pick on me for being the skinny girl now? Oh, look at her. She thinks she's better than us because she's skinny. And it happens. So there can be not only the fear of failure and not wanting to try to make those choices again, but what if I try and I do succeed and I find that my whole life changes because everyone around me changes? That can paralyze a person as well. So it's just talking about these concepts that we typically approach health and wellness and think it's only about what we're eating or only about whether or not we're exercising. And I'm wanting to get a little deeper and say it's about a lot more than that. If you find that you've found yourself against that wall and you cannot make those changes, maybe it's time to explore more than the food, more than the exercise. Maybe it's time to see, do you have any fears? Do you have any negative beliefs you've been carrying around that are now affecting your ability to have a healthy lifestyle?
Now, I mentioned that you're a motivational speaker, so do you get to do a lot of that in line with the book and in line with your being a wellness coach, where you're able to actually spend time talking with people about the fear side of it, about the fat side of it, and then the other F's that we're going to get into. And are they receptive to it initially, or does it sometimes take a while, or is it just dependent on the person?
Well, I don't get to do as much as I would like. Well, I don't want to say as much as I would like, because when I do a lot of fun things. So speaking, writing this book, and I've got a couple others in my brain, not even on paper yet. I am able to coach from time to time. I'm now here in Daytona Beach, Florida, working at Bethune-Cookman University.
Oh, wonderful.
My alma mater. So there are a lot of fun things that I'm doing kind of all over the place. And I ease all of this into everything that I do. So I may be sitting with a student who's looking into what career they want to go to, and then I can talk about people's behavior and their choices are going to affect how you practice healthcare. So I get to kind of sneak it in and have fun.
Different stuff, yeah.
But I find that taking the approach that I've taken in this book, it's not over a person's head. I have not included a lot of words that most people can't understand. And if I have, I've tried to give a definition, and I use that same approach in speaking and coaching, so that it is easy to understand. And I love to make jokes. So in using that, it kind of helps a person to be more at ease to receive the information a little better. But I actually spoke at my parents' church just this past weekend, and we had a ball. It was a 2-hour workshop, and ladies from all different backgrounds and all ages. Some were younger than I was. And by the end, though, I felt we had exchanged. Not only was I helping them to see some concepts, but we worked through that workshop. We all shared with each other. And I find that that's been the general approach in the different things that I do, that people are usually very receptive. And they say, hey, I may not do all 5 things you said today, but that one thing, I'm going to try that.
Awesome.
And then they call back or write back and say, I did that. I did that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, gosh. Her daughter, Camille, is here. Camille, you want to just come over this way and just wave to the video? Come on. You're busy over there doing some stuff. Just stand up, and you see the video there? Okay. There you go.
She's very creative.
Say
so
hi. All right. This is Camille. And she's over here busily doing some stuff while we're talking with her mom, but I wanted to make sure that she got on the video. Because there are people, and I'm sure you get to talk with people who have children, and they're trying to do in addition to doing all of the stuff that you do as a woman, and guys, we do a lot, I tell you. But all the stuff that we do as a wife, as a mother, as just being, you know, a female, and with business, and you say you're working at Bethune-Cookman, so we've got jobs and everything else. But with all of that, many times we will forget about self and taking care of self. And I know you make mention of that, how important it is to give yourself the freedom to take care of yourself and to sometimes put yourself first.
Yes, yes. And that can be tricky and sticky because we do have long-standing beliefs that to be selfish at all is a very bad thing.
Terrible, yes.
And so we find ourselves having to work through those belief systems. Well, if I take the time for myself, does that mean I'm being a bad mom? If I take the time to myself, does that mean I'm not really being a great wife? But the opposite view that I'm trying to present is that if you're not well, you're not giving off the wellness.
Right.
You're not giving off the positive vibes and good energy and sound choices and sound guidance and advice to your children. And you're not able to be that 100% support for your spouse or significant other if you are not well. So it is worth it to, maybe we don't call it being selfish. Maybe we just call it we're taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, my time.
Yeah, it's just me time.
me time, yeah. Because if you're to be at your best, that means you have to take care of yourself and allow, through God's help, to be your best. And then when you're giving your best to others, I mean, how much better can that be than to give your best to others? But you gotta be your best first.
That's right. And I have found that in my very own life. Because again, I had a time where it doesn't matter what it was. It doesn't matter who was involved. That is irrelevant. It was the amount of stress I allowed myself to feel. And then I found that I was not able to be all the mother that I could be and be all of the person in everyone's lives around me that I could be. And now that I take more time to focus on the health and well-being of myself, and hey, you know what that means for me? Let me just give you a real picture. It means that that I'm not forcing them to be on their own, but here's an example. I get up 20 minutes earlier than everyone else every morning so that I can have time for prayer, meditation, stretching, get my morning cup of tea. Now that I do that, if I have a morning that I don't do it, my whole day is almost off.
Wow.
Because it's, I've cut into that me time. But that was a decision to make. Well, do I get up with everyone else and then we all start rushing and mad and upset and cranky? Or do I take the time to get myself right? And then that way, when everyone else gets up, everybody's right. That's just one example. Or it might be staying up 10 minutes past the children's bedtime or an hour past to be able to settle down.
Yeah.
Reconnect with yourself.
De-stress.
De-stress, exactly.
Relax.
Instead of just going all the time,
Unease, as you said. But one of the things you mentioned in the book too is that when you allow yourself to do that, what you're actually doing is being a role model to your daughters and your children to say that, you need to make sure that as you get older, you also find some and have some me time and some my time, and think of yourself in the mix of everything else and all that you're doing for everyone else. That you too are important.
They are always watching.
Yeah.
They're always
yes,
watching
they
and
are.
always listening. So we say, okay, you should do this, and then we show them the example that mom's not taking care of herself. It becomes one of their beliefs.
Absolutely.
And as they get older and they go and choose a mate, they find themselves acting out those same behaviors that they saw you have. So that it is important. And it's not just for our women, it's for our men too.
Yes.
Men have an extreme amount of stress in different areas than women do. It's important for them as well. So for the whole, everyone, community, family, everyone to just be at ease.
Oh, absolutely.
It sounds easy, I know. It does sound like it's so easy. But it takes practice.
Yeah, and sometimes I think, even though I know men have the same problems, but it seems to be easier for them to relax and to set stuff aside and say, well, I'm not going to do this today. But for women, I mean, we know if we don't do it today, it's going to be sitting there waiting for us tomorrow or later tonight or whatever. So take care of it and whatever. And we learn that we have to be organized and we have to do things that, you know, just get stuff done.
Right.
But as you were saying, and what I picked up in the book too, is that, you know, sometimes it's not so bad that, you know, that one dish sits in the sink till tomorrow.
Who is it really going to hurt?
Oh,
Really?
Absolutely.
I mean, unless you have a roach problem. I mean, in that case, that's a little extreme. But aside from that, is it really going to hurt? I think the reason that it hurts is because of those beliefs. It's
Yes,
these
right.
negative,
All those things we were told.
limiting beliefs, and it's not to put blame on where they came from. Okay,
Mhm.
if grandma taught me you always have a clean kitchen before you go to bed, it's not that I'm going to now blame grandma for that belief. No. It's just, is this working? Is this working for me?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't have the same schedule that grandma had when I was little and she was, you know, doing this. Everything is different.
Yeah.
So it's not really is it working.
Maybe grandma had more of a roach problem than you have at your house, you know, or something like that. It's like the joke that you hear about the lady with the pan who kept cutting off that part of the ham, the end part of the ham.
Right.
And she never knew why she did it, just that it was always done. Her grandmother did it, her mother did it. And her daughter asked her, Mom, why do you cut that part off and you throw it away? She said, why do you do it? She said, I don't know, my mother always did it. So she called her mother. And of course her mother said the reason we did it was we didn't have a large enough pan to fit it.
Right.
So we had to cut it off in order for it to fit in the pan. But
Right.
today we got bigger pans. Some of these things we really should ask why. Why is this done? And really question it, because it made sense back then, but does it make sense today?
Yeah. Is it working for me? Is it working for my family?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now, some of the more positive F words, and one of the ones that really hit me to home was the forgiveness one, especially when it comes to us forgiving ourselves.
And it's been interesting. I've had men and women that have read this book, and it's been the men that have come back and said, the chapter that struck me most was the forgiveness chapter. Who would have thought it, right? But we typically don't associate forgiveness and health. Hey, those are two different things. What I'm eating has nothing to do with whether or not I'm still holding a grudge against Bob from 1974. Well, yes, it does. It has everything to do with it. It's completely related. Because holding on to that energy of not letting go, being so bitter and angry and just resentful of the situation or the person, again, is an emotion or a set of emotions that begins to damage our bodies from the inside out, damage our minds and damage our spirits. So with speaking about forgiveness, it's becoming one of my favorite topics to talk about. It used to be fear, but now forgiveness is really hitting home in that we find ourselves feeling like, well, she did this 10 years ago, and as long as I hold on to it, then that makes me right, makes her wrong. And so if I let go of this and say, I forgive her, well then doesn't that make her right? And that's the point we have to separate. It's not even about being right or wrong. And after 10 years, who cares anyway?
Yeah, most times we don't even remember why they didn't like somebody, or what even happened. All I knew is something happened, and I just don't like her. I don't like him, or whatever. A bitter root then is formed in yourself, and it's just hard to get stuff growing in that kind of a soil.
Yeah, so being able to let that go, separate it from the assignment that one is right and one is wrong, gives all the benefits back to you. As I talked about in this the weekend workshop, it allows you to get your power back. Not your power over someone, but your power within. Everyone walks with their own power. When a person is not forgiving another person or a situation, you're giving your power away. You might as well, it's like having a handful of cash and just throwing the cash out. You're just giving it away, just throwing it away. And when you can take that back and say, whatever the situation was or whatever the person did, I now decide to be all of me and have all of my energy to myself. I'm not going to leave that energy wrapped up in that situation. But as you mentioned, forgiveness of self is a sneaky one, in that I made this decision 15 years ago and it's just affected my life, and you repeat this over and over again, this decision, that event that I went through, and you just hold on to it over and over again. That's affecting you. You know, it's affecting a person. And so it's the end of that chapter where I'm encouraging each of us to take a deeper look within and be more gentle with ourselves. We're often our own worst critic, right?
Yes, yes.
So to be more gentle and to be more forgiving of self is probably the greatest gift that you can give yourself. That every, you know, I love to say this, that everyone makes a decision based on where they are at that time. And that goes for yourself. When I was 21, the things that I did at 21, I wouldn't do 95% of those things now. So it's not that I was a bad person for making those decisions, it's just that was my capacity at that time. Hopefully when I'm 61, I'm going to be making some really darn good decisions that I would look back and say, honey, when you were 39, how you did that, I don't know. But it's being able to realize we're moving, usually in divine timing. We're moving at the right time. We're making the decisions the best that we can make.
Right.
And so we make it, and we just move on.
Different seasons that occur in our lives. Yes. And, another part of the forgiving, because many times people, besides forgiving yourself, sometimes there are close family members even. You know, we won't even talk about strangers, but close family members that we hold something against, and sometimes we're not even aware that something they did, we just carry it forward, and there's some kind of a negativity that's tied to them, to that person's name, even when you hear it, and you don't even understand why. You just something about it that they would say. There's just something about them, and you know, even when we don't know why, we need to go back and say, God, Lord, I don't know what it is about this person that just drives me wacky and drives me crazy, but help me, Lord, to deal with it. Help me to find forgiveness in my heart for this person and move on. Because all of that holds you back. It keeps you from being the person that God wants you to be, from being true and being real and being at your best. So forgiveness, even though, you know, the other is fear is important, but I would agree with you that it's the forgiveness part of it that so many of us have really, really, really a hard time with. Forgiving what we know is easier sometimes than forgiving what we don't know, because it's hard to hold on to or grasp that or try to even recall it sometimes. And it's a shame that she's good. She's okay, yeah. If she's on the video, she's good. That's all right. But it's a shame that we have difficulties. We as human beings have a lack of patience with each other. We have a lack of forgiveness with each other. Just a lacks in terms of dealing with other human beings, and that's something we have to learn to deal with. And it starts with us, as you said it. It really starts with us. If we're able to forgive ourselves, to love ourselves, and enable ourselves to be real, then we can allow other people to do the same.
Can you imagine if as you went on day by day, someone was always at your back saying, you need to do this exactly right, this needs to be exactly right, highest expectations, I expect the best of you at all times. Can you imagine if there was a person following you around and doing that? So it's the same type of concept. Many times we're holding people up to expectations that we're not even willing to rise up to ourselves. And that is very unfair. I don't want to be perfect all the time. I can't be. It's almost impossible. It's a lot
of pressure.
Wow. You know, we're learning through our lives. We're working through God and God's love to find that perfection at the end of our lives. But it's kind of hard to do that all day, every single day, to not ever have an impure thought, not ever, do something that's just not going to have a negative effect. So we've got to give each other a break.
Oh,
We have to
absolutely.
give each other a break.
And think of what we're also as role models teaching our children, that they have to be perfect.
Right.
That they can't make mistakes. That, you know, if we never, that's one thing that adults should be willing to do before young people, is to say to them, you know, I'm not perfect. You know, I've made mistakes. I've made some bad choices. But I would love to have you in the position where you can avoid making some of those mistakes just because of my sharing with you. You're still going to make some. Everybody will make some, but, you know, hopefully we can avoid some of that. Let me just take a station break and say you're listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest is Noni Walker, and she is not only a motivational speaker and an author, and we're talking about her book, The Train to Freedom. But she's also CEO with Walker Exchange LLC, and also a wellness coach. And as you're saying now, you're also an employee with Bethune-Cookman University. So you have an opportunity to really do a lot of good stuff. This is WLE 1380 AM on your radio dial in Ormond Beach, Florida. Also Big Radio, Goliath Radio. Again, WLE 1380 AM on the radio down in Ormond Beach, Florida. And we're happy to have you with us. And we're talking about wellness, of course, and the importance of you being you, the importance of you being whole, mind, body, and soul, and how you can reach that point, and how we know it takes time. You know, just like, you know, people, when it comes to even dieting and weight stuff, they want to take off in a matter of days or weeks what it took them years to put on.
Right, yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, we're so unrealistic many times as human beings. But why are we just so, really just so hard on ourselves sometimes, you know? And I'm sure it ties in with fear, it ties in with unforgiveness, it ties in with so much stuff. But I think, in truth, we as Americans seem to mistreat ourselves worse than in so many other countries. I'm saying where they have the opportunity to really take care of themselves. People seem to, in other countries, do a much better job of that when it comes to fitness and when it comes to how they eat and, you know, things that they do. And a lot of that, I guess, is trained, it's learned, you know, through parenting and the like. But is there hope for people in America? I know if there are more people like you sharing the information, there will be a lot of hope. But we know too that obesity is still one of the #1 or leading problems for Americans. And I was so happy to hear recently that the obesity scale or whatever, when it came to the young people, that it was going down. Yes. And that's positive, you know. And I applaud, if I don't want to give it, I applaud Michelle Obama and all that she's doing, and others who are working with her to help deal with that problem in that situation, because there's some things that we just should not sustain in terms of obesity of our children, babies. When they start out fat, they're just setting them up to be fat ladies. You know, yeah, they're cute, but they're not healthy. No matter what they're not healthy, okay? And I keep saying it, whenever I see a cute little fat baby, I say, oh, she's so cute, but I say, put her on a diet or something, you know, just something, help the child, which is true. But what is the hope really that's out there for us as Americans and people who really want to do better? We you know, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. I'm just a positive person anyway, so you could ask me anything and I'm going to say, oh, there's always hope.
And there is, and we know that we will find, you know, because always an answer comes. But in the meantime, how many people will have to die? How many people will have to, you know, get all of these health issues and problems because they're not doing what they should be doing?
Right. Well, one perspective I have is part of the reason why I started my own company, because I've had and have a wonderful career in nonprofit and academia. At the same time, I find that when you approach an idea from everyone's sick, everyone's dying, this is the world, it's such a tragedy, that's depressing in itself. And so I like to look at, well, this is where we are, and then where are we going that's better?
Yes.
It's just a shift in the mind that can help a person reach a goal that much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to reach a goal and I'm feeling horrible about myself, well, I have this disease that 30 million people are dying from every year, and that's repeated in my mind. Or, well, this is where I am now, but I know that there are things that I can do to just be better, and just give up on the guilt and give up on all the tragedy of the world. But I do feel there's hope. I feel that there is a shift going on, even compared to 20 years ago. Just the fact that we have more methods of alternative medicine, the fact that we have more doctors now going out to get their MPH degrees and exploring other parts of medicine, not just the traditional treatment side, but the prevention side, and now the wellness side. A wellness coach was unheard of 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Unheard of in large circles. But now that's becoming something that's even more popular. To have life coaches, health coaches, wellness coaches. So I think the idea is catching on. I really, really do. We can look at our media is changing slightly in terms of advertising and promoting more health and wellness. As you said, even in the White House, we've got initiatives coming out of there that are promoting great health for our children. So I just take the stance that we're doing what we can, and there is hope. There is hope that we, just, hey, are the numbers going to end up being reversed? Sometimes I sit and think, literally, for like 10 minutes straight on that. Will we ever have a day that is just 1 million obese people in the country? I don't know. But I have sensed a shift in the general approach to accept more wellness as opposed to treatment, and to think about prevention as opposed to treatment, and to think of, and I'm seeing more collaborations, more partnerships between medical organizations, schools, and the like. So, with all of those things going on, we're shifting, and I think it's a good thing.
And I look forward to the day too when a person has an issue, and as you're talking about alternative medicine, where you do more with the healthier side of life, with the natural products and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to for every illness there's some kind of medication there that somebody's pushing, some drug that they're saying you need to take, whether you're a baby or you're a young child or you're an adult or an elder person. There's always some kind of a pill that somebody's pushing for you to take, as opposed to some kind of a natural thing that you can do. Listening to John Morgan, who's of course pushing the thing about the marijuana, but one of the things that he had said was the fact that probably 9 out of 10 commercials is somebody pushing some pill, that can help you with either your sex drive, or the way you walk, or the way you talk, or getting up in the morning, going to sleep at night, with the food that you eat, with the diet, with the this, with the that. I mean, there's a pill for everything. And we need to get away from, as Americans, depending on the pills and start depending on some type of a self thing, an alternative to all of that medication and the pharmaceuticals. And that's what's really going to help us to be healthier and to be better people, period.
I feel that we can promote more trust in ourselves. This world exists on partnerships and collaboration, and we're all here together. At the same time, though, again, if we give our power out to everyone else, every organization, every method of treatment, then they have our power. And so it's worth it to invest the time to learn about new things, maybe practice 1 or 2, and embrace the idea that you can rely on your intuition. You can rely on your connection through prayer and the messages that you've received there to then understand what's best for yourself. I frankly think we all know what's good for ourselves.
Yes, we do.
In those quiet moments, we know. I know if I go out and have a Snickers bar, then an hour later I'm saying, I knew. We know what is right for us and what is wrong, and we know what's right for others and what's wrong for others. But it comes down to the individual person and making that choice to tune into themselves and see what's going to come out of that. So even though there might be 10 commercials about the pills, turn the TV off. Take that walk during the evening news. Maybe you find out when's the weather going to be shown and when really important issues.
Right,
but to
right.
sit there and watch all the news and all of the
Oh, yeah,
commercials and all of this,
depressing.